Well, how about that, John? It was the Brett Phillips show at the Big A yesterday. We're going to recap the game, look at Griffin Canning's first start in over 2 years, and where Jose Suarez fits on this team. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And John and I thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We are available on all platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and the best way to help us out is by giving us a rate and a review. And those watching on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribed and click the bell to be notified every time a new episode drops.
Thank you for being here with us for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
You've got big, lifelong fans of this team here with you for the #1 daily Los Angeles Angels podcast here every Monday through Friday, giving you daily coverage of your favorite team. It's our second season with Locked On Angels, so we're happy to be here. Coming up tomorrow, Mike, it's Fan Mail Friday. We got the off day today, a much needed off day, I feel like, is for not just the players, but the fans as well. And the Halos are headed on a pretty tough road trip against the Yankees and the Red Sox. They'll be taking on the Red Sox this weekend, so they'll be on the East Coast. But it is cool that Shohei Ohtani will be starting the Marathon Day game very early for us, 8:10 start time in the morning there in Boston. So we have Fan Mail Friday tomorrow, so get your questions in. You can send us a DM on Locked On Angels, at Locked On Angels on Twitter, and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. On today's show, we're taking a deeper look at Griffin Canning's start from yesterday's game and kind of give you some of what he did well and where he made some mistakes. With Canning on the roster, does this move Jose Suarez to the bullpen? But first, Mike, we got to talk about the 3 games, or I should say game 3 against the Nationals. We did win 2 of the 3 games in the series, so we did get a series victory. And winning 3 out of 4 series to start the year ain't too bad, right?
It's actually really good. 7-5. The Halos looking pretty good. They won 3-2 yesterday against the Nationals. And you mentioned it, Griffin Canning was on the mound. John, this was his first major league appearance since July 2nd, 2021. He missed all of last year, the final 2 months of 2021. He had a lower back stress reaction.
Mm-hmm.
It's the back, man. Everybody has a problem with the back. Trout and Walsh and now Griffin Canning. So hopefully he's over that. Began the season on the IL. He had a groin strain, and then he made a rehab assignment April 6th in Low A Inland Empire. And it was a pretty good start. He struck out 10 in 5 innings in that game. Yesterday, first career appearance against the Nationals. And Canning in interleague play is 3-1 with a 3.61 ERA, 42 innings pitched, 17 earned runs, and 38 strikeouts. And so Johnny, yesterday in his ninth start, his ninth start in interleague play, pitched against the Nationals, and he looked really good. 5 innings, 2 runs, 2 earned runs, 5 hits, no walks, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, 4 Ks and 69 pitches. His fastball velo in the first inning was between 93 and 94 miles an hour. He used a combination of a fastball and a slider, a curve, and a change. I was surprised that he only threw 69 pitches. We were talking yesterday on the show that Phil Nevin said he'll be around the 90 to 100 pitch range, but I wonder if because he went 5 innings, they were satisfied with that type of start from Griffin Canning.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a matter of seeing him get hit around in the 4th inning where he gave up the 2 runs. Then he came back out for the 5th, and it was a pretty quick and easy inning for him, so he ended up at 69 pitches. And I just kind of wonder, in that sense, it felt like they were playing the matchups there. They were like, you know what, we want him to go against these guys for the 5th inning, and so why not let him go out there and do that? And, better to err on the side of caution, I suppose. I know that we've been really holding our breath when it comes to the bullpen, but they came out and locked it down as well, from Moore to Aaron Loop to Ryan Tepera and Jose Quijada closing it out. Those guys went 4 scoreless. They retired the last 18 of 19 batters, Mike. So that was great to see as well. But this, it's funny, we were all eyes were on Griffin Canning in his big comeback, but then this turned into the Brett Phillips game. Brett Phillips got the start In center field, Shohei Ohtani was given a much needed day off after pitching and hitting in Tuesday night's game. And for Brett Phillips to play center field and have Trout DH was concerning because it was a lefty starting on the mound
Yeah.
in Mackenzie Gore, and Brett Phillips is a lefty. He's not known for his bat whatsoever, and to be the fourth outfielder on this team was simply for defense. Well, he quickly proved that because he had a 6th-inning leaping catch at the wall that either robbed a home run or was at least a double
Right.
off the wall. And he got there. He also made some incredible plays in the very first inning, just some long running, great routes to the ball in the outfield. But Mike, the big story here for Brett Phillips was the fact that he walked to get on base, he steals second base, and then eventually steals third base, and then scores on the throw to third. It goes past the third baseman, Candelario, and so Brett Phillips almost didn't get up. But,
Yeah,
but
he was looking around.
And then he was able to score. So he scored an RBI without swinging the bat. How about that? And then later on in the game, an RBI bases loaded walk from Brett Phillips. And so that's really what it came down to, was playing to his strengths, which is stealing bags, playing great defense. And this is why he's on the roster. Mike,
Yes.
This was his first start in 12 games. It's been 12 games, and this is the first time Brett Phillips has started a game. And that's why Joe Adell and Mickey Moniak are not the fourth outfielders on this team.
Yeah.
Because it would have been 12 games until you saw them get their first start. Now, Brett has had a plate appearance, and he walked in that one, and then he walked in his next 2 plate appearances in this game, his first 2 plate appearances. But this is why he's on the roster. It's the intangibles that he brings to the roster. And honestly, I'm not upset about it. I mean, going up there and you think, oh, geez, automatic out with that bat or what have you. I know he struck out later on in the game, but it's the intangibles of being able to take a walk and then being a threat on the base paths. And this is how good teams win, when their stars aren't able to produce. We saw Mike Trout kind of struggle. The broadcast made mention that he was kind of dropping his elbow a little bit while he was swinging, and that's why he's been popping up and popping out. But then the role players play their role, right? They step into the role that they're designed to do, and they make it happen. And that's exactly what Brett Phillips did in yesterday's game.
Know your role and steal a bag, right? And
That's
so
right.
just to see Brett Phillips come through was great. And I did see, some Angel Twitter people saying man, would the bats need to wake up? And we even tweeted that out. People saying, man, it was too close for me. We should have won this game 6-2. This is what successful teams do. This is what successful teams have on their calendar in their season. There are games where they should blow this team out. This should be an easy win. But the Nats,
especially when you have the bases loaded as many times as they
had
did,
opportunities.
Many opportunities.
Let's not ignore that.
Yeah.
But the Nats have a good young starting core, and the Angels always struggle in games like this. They always come through in games when you don't expect them to come through. Like they take 2 or 3 from the Astros, or they take 3 or 4 from the Yankees. But against teams like this, they typically struggle. Historically, they struggle. This is why, being a longtime fan, I don't get too frustrated with games like this. I actually celebrate a win like this, because what this game would have been last year is 2-1 Nationals, because we wouldn't have been able to score any sort of runs without Shohei in there and Mike Trout struggling. And Brett Phillips, man, he's just a fire starter. His interview on the radio side with the radio people on AM 830 was fantastic, because he was really fired up. He was talking about how thankful he was for those that were listening on the radio side driving home. He acknowledged the fans, and then he just shared about how excited he was to play on this team and that he actually made an impact. And this is what you want in a veteran on your team, to come in and do exactly that. And if this was Joe Adell or Mickey Moniak, they probably would have been ice cold, and they need, obviously it's been shown, they need at bats to be successful. And so I'm thankful that Phillips is on this team. I'm going to say it out loud, even if he struggles in his next few at bats. But this was a really great game to watch him play. And then Johnny, the rookie of the year, Logan O'Hoppe, his 11th RBI was a go-ahead RBI. He's leading the team in that category. And then Renfroe and Drury each had 2 hits apiece.
That's good to see.
I was really excited to see the team come together yesterday and play well, and Brett Phillips leading the way. How about that?
The Angels are now 7-5. Of course, they have an off day. Again, they're heading out to the East Coast. They're going to Boston first. And then Ohtani is going to start Monday at 8 a.m. So bright and early, guys, set your alarms because that's going to be a morning one. Get your coffee ready. Then 3 games in New York. So it'll be interesting to see how the Angels come back from that road trip. Hey, coming up on Locked On Angels, Canning was good. So should he replace Jose Suarez in the rotation? Well, Phil Nevin did say that Canning will get another start and another turn in the rotation. So what happens with this team and in particular, Jose Suarez? We'll talk about that coming up.
Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure that every player is a perfect fit like Brett Phillips, right? And it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time that you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With the eBay Guarantee Fit, you can be sure that every part that you need fits right and fits right the first time. Just add your car or truck to the My Garage on eBay Motors and look for the green check to know that the part that you've selected will fit or your money back. Just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. And after all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right part fits and they are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, at the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride together. Eligible items only and exclusions do apply.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today. And as we continue our conversation about Griffin Canning and his return to the mound, we wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive on his stats, talk about what he did well, talk about how he handled the moment. So, Mike, why don't you start us off with his final line score?
Yeah, I love this quote from Sam Blum. He tweeted it out from Griffin Canning. He said, "I'm prepared for this. I've been doing this for the last year and a half, and I'm ready for this moment. I felt ready, and I was just excited to be back out there." And I'm sure he's excited about his final line. Again, 5 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits, no walks, and 4 Ks, and just 69 pitches. John, he used 4 different pitches in this game, a slider, a 4-seam fastball, a changeup, and a curveball. Walk us through how those pitches were used and the effectiveness against the offense of the Nationals.
Yeah, when it comes to the slider, he got the hitters of the Nationals to swing at it 11 times, and 6 of those 11 times were swings and misses. He got 6 whiffs on the slider. When it came to the fastball, he got 8 swings on the fastball. 3 of those were whiffs. Changeup, he got 15 swings on the changeup. 4 of those were whiffs. And on the curveball, he got 5 swings on the curve, and 2 of those went for swings and misses. Mike, what he did well, and I went and looked back at the graphic for each plate appearance or each battle, essentially, that he had against the Nationals hitters. When he was dotting the edges, he was getting guys to hit the changeup on the ground. He was getting guys to swing at the slider. He was getting them to chase things away like a curve, and even though they might have made contact, I know I just mentioned the swings and misses, but even when they made contact, it wasn't good contact, and it wasn't dinky-do bloop contact like we saw with the Jays and with Jose Suarez's start against the Nationals on Monday. Remember that his fastball velocity and his slider velocity were actually very close before this injury, and that was a problem because he had a low 90s fastball, and then his slider sat around that 90-mile-per-hour mark in the past, almost like a cutter rather than a slider.
Right.
But you know that the degree of separation between a fastball and a slider is super necessary because you need something to come in quickly and you need something to kind of float in. And that way the hitter doesn't know what to expect. Are they sitting on something fast so they get the bat out there a little bit quicker? Or do they sit and wait on a slider? Well, because Griffin Canning's velocity on the fastball and the slider is a little bit more separated, he had much more success yesterday. And here's what I mean. His fastball velo was around 94 in this game, while his slider was anywhere between 85 to 90 miles an hour. And you could see that he was trying to play the slider off the fastball. During the 4th inning, he was throwing the fastball and the slider up in the zone to try to fool the batter. And he had a couple of missed locations, and that's why he was hit around a bit in that 4th inning. It just wasn't up enough in the zone. It was kind of center cut and on a plate for some of those guys. But here's a good example. Versus Lane Thomas in the 4th inning, it was a fastball at the top of the zone at 94, another one at the top of the zone at 94, almost the exact same spot, and then a slider at the top of the zone at 86.5 miles per hour. It froze Lane Thomas, and he got a called strike 3, and it was essentially in that upper quadrant of the strike zone. And he's most effective when he's mixing up his speeds and he's getting guys to expect that fastball, and then they swing and miss at the off speed. Another good example is this at bat versus CJ Abrams. Why don't you take us through that?
Yeah, that was in the 4th inning as well. And so he started him off with a curve, Johnny, and it was about 82 miles an hour. It was a foul ball. Then another curve ball, 81, which was a ball. Then a fastball for a ball, so it's 2-1. And then he threw a changeup at around 89 miles an hour right down the middle, and Abrams swung and missed.
Mm-hmm.
And then a slider, and here's the key, above in the zone. It was high in the zone at 87 miles an hour, and Abrams swung and missed that and struck out. And so Canning really looked like the Canning that we've seen in the past. I know he had some moments where he struggled in his past, but I think he's got ace stuff in him, and he's got a makeup of someone who's got ace stuff. And the reason why I say that is, first, going out there after a year and a half, I'm sure that there was all sorts of anxiety and nerves and emotions, right? And I read that quote. He said he was ready, but let's see if he's ready. Let's see if he can perform. And I think the biggest stat, and I mentioned it twice already, is the 0 walks, John. He handled the emotion of the moment. He didn't allow it to get away from him, and he was able to make the pitches when it counted. And the second thing was that he worked around the 5 hits. He did get hit, and there were some moments where he got hit hard, but he worked around that. And there was a camaraderie between him and Logan Ohtani. And I think, obviously, offensively, we're excited about Ohtani, but defensively, Ohtani really handles this pitching staff well. There was a great tweet yesterday from a Japanese media outlet, and they interviewed Ohtani after the game about Logan Ohtani. And Ohtani said to him, I want you to focus on the offensive side, and I'm just going to walk you through the defensive side. Like, Ohtani was just carrying Ohtani, and he said, that guy picked up on everything that I wanted to do. He was where I needed him to be. And so Buster Posey, bro, is probably the greatest thing you've ever said on this show about Logan Ohtani, because he just really carries himself well. And I think what we saw yesterday with Griffin Canning is that this guy in Ohtani is so calm, cool, and collected, knows what he's doing. I think that actually helped Canning, who is a calm, cool, and collected starting pitcher.
With Canning, I went back and looked at his walks, and for him to not give up any in his first start back is huge, because there were some games where he would issue 2. There were a couple of games where he issued 5 walks in the past. So for him to issue 0 walks yesterday was a huge deal. And again, that separation on the slider and the fastball, if he can fool guys with that, that's going to carry him a long way. And Mike, like you said, handling the emotions of the moment, being calm, cool, and collected, I don't think we got that Griffin Canning in the past. I think that this is a more mature Griffin Canning who's been through this difficult injury, and all he can think about is getting back and how he's going to handle the moment once he gets back there. Well, he certainly went out there and handled the moment yesterday. And I know it's the Nationals, and I know we're always going to say, well, you got to beat the Nationals, you got to beat the A's. But I kind of joked the other day. I said, the Nationals did beat the Braves 4-1 earlier this season.
And it's still a major league start. You're still a major league ball player against major league hitters.
Right. And we saw what happens when you stink against a not so great team. We saw that on Monday. Yeah. And Griffin Canning could have easily come out and had a game like Jose Suarez did, where things are getting blooped in and there's errors in the field and whatnot. So I really have to give credit to Griffin Canning for just keeping his cool, staying out there and getting back to the club and doing it well. And I'm excited to see him start. It's going to be a tough start against the Yankees, but hopefully he can rise to the occasion and rise up to that moment.
Today's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Do you know that most people have subscriptions that they are not aware of? Most Americans think that they're spending around $80 a month on subscriptions, but it's actually around and a lot closer to $200 a month. And if you don't know exactly how much you're spending every month, you need Rocket Money. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about, and chances are you're probably one of them, like maybe the Stars app, like John and his wife did. They watched one show and then they forgot all about it, or that free gaming trial that you never actually used. Rocket Money will quickly and easily find the subscriptions that you don't want to pay for anymore. You just hit cancel and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. It's that easy. And Rocket Money also helps you manage all of your finances in one place and automatically categorizes your expenses so that you can easily track your budget in real time and get alerted if anything looks off. Over 3 million people have used Rocket Money, and they have an average savings per year of $720. So start tracking and saving money today. Check out rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb.
And today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. I know you're looking for a delicious treat and you do not want all the fat and calories. Then you, my friend, need to check out Built Bar. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. The bars are so delicious, you won't even know that they're good for you. You won't even remember the fact that they're good for you. And what makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate, and they come in great flavors like churro and peanut butter brownie and coconut almond. These are the bars that taste like a candy bar while remaining healthy. And they only have 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar. And they have a whopping 17 grams of protein. So you'll feel nice and full after you have one. If you're ready for a Built Bar, you got 3 chances to try some. First, you can go to the website, built.com. Wide selection of bars and puffs. You can use the code LOCKEDON15 to get a discount there. Second, you can head to your nearest Walmart, go to the pharmacy section, grab yourself a 4-bar box of Built Bars with flavors like cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. You just can't lose. And then third, if you really want to upgrade, head to your local Sam's Club, grab a 13-bar box with hit flavors like brownie batter and churro. You're going to thank us later. Built Bars and Built Puffs, you got to try this.
Johnny, as we record this show, the ice cream man is passing by my house, and it reminds me of the variety of Ninja Turtle ice creams that this ice cream man has, which also reminds me which also reminds me of the variety of starting pitchers we have on the Los Angeles Angels.
Way to bring it back, Frisch. Well done.
Well done. Griffin Canning pitched well, and we're excited about that. And Tucker Davidson has looked really good, but Jose Suarez has not. And here's some stats that are really painful. His whip is 2.28 in 2 starts. He's given up an average of 419. He's only pitched 8 in the 3rd innings. Here's the interesting thing, Johnny. He's only walked 1 batter. And walks were really his big issue, but not this year. It's really the contact from the opposing offense that's coming at him. Now, he really struggled last year, and then second half seemed to really rise to the occasion.
Yes.
Where he didn't struggle last year was in the bullpen. Here's his stats before he was made a starter again last season. 3-1, 1.98 ERA in 9 appearances. It was 27 innings pitched, 6 earned runs, and 26 strikeouts. And so with Griffin Canning's emergence, and we don't want to be too optimistic, but with his emergence looking really good, and he is going to start against the Yankees, I'm wondering, John, if maybe Davidson moves into the starting rotation, and because Suarez has had some success and maybe needs to get right, he moves into the bullpen. And of course, this bullpen could use some help, and maybe Jose Suarez is the help. What do you think?
Mike, I have a couple of thoughts here. First, I see that 419 average against and that 2.28 whip with the 1 walk that you brought up.
Yeah.
So it's more about hits and contact against Jose Suarez. It was a lot of contact in just 8 1/3 innings for Jose Suarez.
Not missing any bats.
The idea that he has 1 walk tells me that he's not getting chased outside the zone. Does that make sense? He's not getting any chases outside the zone. So I'd be curious to take a look at his outside the zone swing rate on pitches, because if they're not chasing and he's not tempting them with balls outside the zone, that means he's purely hitting the strike zone. And if he's missing his spots, he's getting hit around constantly. And that's what's happening to him against the Nationals on Monday. The second thing I'll say is the success out of the bullpen makes sense, because if he can go one time through an order, two times through an order, he usually has success. It's that third time through the order where he struggles. Now, I think that if I were to make a change here, I think Canning is your number 5 now.
Yes.
I think Tucker Davidson becomes your number 6, and perhaps you piggyback Jose Suarez and Tucker Davidson together in kind of a 2-starter role where one goes 3 innings and the other goes 3 innings, and then you have a regular bullpen game after that. I mean, you just have options. I think Canning looked much more confident and collected than Jose Suarez has in his last 2 starts. I think Canning deserves to be that number 5 starter. We talked about it all offseason. Who's it going to be? Who's going to be in the rotation? Is it Canning? Is it Davidson? Is it Suarez? Well, I think that Canning, the way that he carried himself on Wednesday, I really think that he's earned a spot. I think for number 6, Davidson can start the game. Suarez can also come in after him or start the game, and then Davidson comes in, kind of like what happened on Monday against the Nationals. But if Suarez is a regular pen guy, kind of like how Davidson's been a long relief pen guy, I think that's where he's going to be most successful. My only concern here is you're using up a lot of space in the bullpen for guys who are sort of starters, but not really.
Yes.
Davidson, Suarez, Jaime Barria. And Sam Blum actually had a good article about Andrew Wentz being optioned in favor of Griffin Canning. The Angels are not in a position on April 13th to... Happy anniversary, by the way.
Thank you.
I said that out loud and it just reminded me. On April 13th to DFA guys when they desperately need pitching and arms, right?
Yeah.
However, the notion that the best guys are going to be on this team goes out the window when you option Andrew Wentz out of the bullpen.
Yes.
I understand he can come back at any point, but the problem the Angels have now is you have so many guys who are out of options that are clogging up the roster in terms of Davidson and Suarez and Jaime Barria, all capable arms, but how capable is the question. They can go out there for a few innings or two, but they definitely can't go long into games as we've seen.
Right.
And so it's concerning to me. At what point, what's the breaking point here where you finally let some of those guys go, you take a chance on DFAing them so that you can bring up better options out of the minors for the bullpen. So there's a lot of questions here. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because, Andrew Wentz is down in the minors and he's probably been one of the better, if not one of the best bullpen pieces that we've had so far. Yeah. And I wonder if they're going to use the options they have with Canning and with Wentz to move them back and forth, at least for the next month or so. But I think with Canning, if he's going to pitch well, and we'll see what he does against the Yankees, I think that he earns a spot and you don't want to mess with him. So then the conversation does move to what do you do with some of these long relievers like Jaime Barria and Tucker Davidson and Jose Suarez, right? Do you move them back and forth? I think it was Reed Detmers and Jimmy Herget were the only other pitchers that actually have options. Those are two guys you do not send down. You're not going to send them away unless they're completely struggling. And we saw that last year with Reed and he came back and he was good. But I guarantee you that those two guys are not going to be optioned down. So I think that right now they might play the game of Griffin Canning down, Andrew Wentz up, and then they might reverse it depending on what kind of options they have with those guys. But with Canning pitching so well today or yesterday and then having a shot against the Yankees, and let's say that he pitches well, let's say he puts up the same type of numbers, then I think it makes it really difficult on Perry Manassian on what they're going to do next. Maybe somebody, hurts their elbow and now they're having to go on the IL, right? And that might be something that has to happen with Jose Suarez, maybe to get his head right, that he can sit for a bit because he was really mad, really frustrated. And that he was really bothered by it because he deactivated his Instagram account, John.
Not El Demente. Come on. Mike, something's going to give here. And I think right now, the best approach is a wait and see approach. You got to see how Griffin Canning does against a tough team like the Yankees.
Yeah.
Can he hang against a team like the Yankees? That's something that we need to see before we make any decisions that are going to cost the Angels some arms that are much needed. We're always saying they need pitching, they need pitching, they need pitching. They've got some good arms. They've got some arms that are okay and some not great arms right now that aren't always going to be bad. I think because we've seen Suarez put it together in the past, I think that he can do that again. But man, something's going to give when these guys are running out of options and there's not a lot of room on this roster and you want to carry the best roster possible. I just think that we're running out of room for all of these long relief types heading into the rest of the season.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today. Now for your second listen, check out the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast. Matt and Dom are going to help you win your league, and you can find their podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube, and they are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, you can give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. You're going to want to do that because tomorrow's episode, Mike, is
Fan Mail Friday. So get us your questions. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to hear your voicemails. All of that stuff is great for Fan Mail Friday. So reach out to us and we will try to answer all of your questions tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
We've already had a good crop of questions come in already that I'm excited for us to answer. So
awesome.
We'll get to those tomorrow. Hey, friends, thank you for being here. And we will see you right back here tomorrow for more Locked On Angels. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.